Well, it's the single most destructive property crime in our city every year. It just goes on a nightly basis throughout the city. When you add them all up, it's the single most destructive property crime. And because of that, it creates a situation from which I got from Captain Evans, is that it was one of his top 3 topics of every community meeting.
So Captain Evans says, hey, not for nothing, this is one of the biggest issues we have. I need somebody to get on this. Before you get to that, we have a call. Caller. Hello, you're on Call the Cops.
Hi. I was wondering, don't you think graffiti adds character to the city?
That's an interesting question. Character to the city. What's your name, caller? Oh, I think she hung up. Well, I wanted to get into that too, about, obviously the people who do this think it's art. People who have it done to their property obviously think it's a crime, but does it, what is it, what of this thing of character?
There's a New York City police officer, or lieutenant actually, who did a lot of work on graffiti enforcement in New York, and I guess he summarized it the best. The difference between graffiti and art is permission. Okay?
I love it. Permission.
If it looks so good and it's art and it's that great, then how come it's not on the front door of your parents' house? How come it's not on your car? How come it's not on your father's business? If it's that good, if it's art, then maybe you should put it on a canvas and try to sell it and try to make some money.
And an appropriate canvas. I mean, when you look at what graffiti is, you see it on buildings, on trains, on whatever. I mean, the people who are responsible, they know that where they're putting this stuff isn't the place where they should be putting it. Do the graffiti artists, well, graffiti, what do we call them?
They're graffiti vandals.
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure, graffiti. I mean, they know what they're doing.
They clearly know what they're doing. One of our single most victimized property within the city of Boston is U.S. mailboxes, and there's 2 reasons for that. One, it creates a pretty decent canvas for them. It's real easy to do, and secondly, it's one of the single most pieces of authority in our country.
Yeah.
If you knock over a mailbox, you're looking at 5 years in federal prison, whereas other crimes that are would be more serious, you would think.
What do you mean knock over? You knock over physically?
Yeah,
knock over?
If you damage government property, postal property, you can't interfere with the U.S. mail.
Right.
Fact.
So is graffiti, vandal, is that also a 5-year felony?
They'd be damaging government property. They're damaging U.S. mail property.
Okay.
Do they do that to them? Do the feds put them in jail for that? No, but the fact of the matter is, it's a symbol of authority. It's a big symbol of authority. And that's one of the reasons why they're constantly hit.
I want to get into that too again, because the question is, people obviously want to know, why do they do it? Why do these kids? They know they're causing they're causing problems. They're creating an eyesore in some cases. But why do they do it? Do they do it to get a rise out of people? Why? What are some of the reasons these graffiti vandals do what they do?
Through debriefing, some of the kids I talk to, your common theme you see a lot of self-esteem issues. They like to call it social commentary, art, whatever they want to call it. The fact of the matter is, they're anti-authority. They have some self-esteem issues, and I don't want to demean them, but kind of the last kid picked for kickball type thing. You know what I mean?
I actually don't want to.
And
okay.
They're kind of outcast.
Let's not go to that.
And you're not tagging, but you were the last. You were the last kid picked. I understand that.
I don't tag. But one thing that you touched on, it's the anti-establishment kind of approach. So this is their way of saying, hey, you know what? Whatever. This is my way of saying. I'm not afraid to create some problems.
One of my biggest things, and I hate to advertise for them, that's kind of what they want, but to get my point across, if this is art and this is social commentary, some of our bigger crews, AEA stands for the Anti-Establishment Artist.
Okay.
The VLK, which is kind of dormant now, but they were the Vicious Lawless Kids, AKA Violating Laws crews. ITD, one of the premier crews now, is Illustrate Total Destruction, among other things. So if this is art and this is social commentary, then we have like the BLT, the Boston Late Night Taggers, the Big City Vandals. If it's art, it's art, what's with the theme of the vandal theme or the destruction theme?
We were talking about it earlier, and it's fascinating. It's like this subculture of graffiti vandals, different names and what have you. But in terms of, and I just was looking through some websites last night. What, in addition to the anti-establishment, are they looking for notoriety? Are they looking for popularity? And if they are, how do they get that?
Well, the problem with the internet. It did 2 things. One, the good thing was it made it easier for us to track them to some degree. Ultimately, you can only find out their tagger identity, then you got to do the legwork to find out their true identity.
I want to find out how you do that, because that's right.
But the biggest problem with is now they've been able to organize, where before they would meet in certain locations to do certain things, but they only really knew each other from those locations. Well, now they can, through the various media outlets, you know, the Facebook and the Flickr and the MySpace.coms and all those.
I think Flickr was the one I was looking at.
Yeah, they
and it has like slideshows of.
Oh, yeah.
It had slideshows
And they organize,
of graffiti in Boston.
They organize. They promote their stuff on that. Some of them, some of the kids, you know, they claim to have an artistic ability, and you know, the young kids who look up to them will actually buy some of their stuff. But that created.
You actually have young kids,
yeah,
who are looking up to older graffiti artists to the point where they're going to buy something with their stuff, with their tag on it.
Clearly, we monitored a show about a year ago in Brighton where they painted on model trains. They made some sweatshirts, some T-shirts, and then some sneakers with some graffiti on it. And
what
younger
age,
kids.
Okay, the younger kids. How old are the young kids who are buying this stuff? Is it? Are they 12, 13?
No. The generalities are the premier kids in the subculture right now. They're your, you know, 30 to 35. Some of them are older than 35, but they've been around the longest. They're very good at it within the minds of the graffiti subculture. Well, the new kids coming up, the kids 14 to 15, into the high school ages, into the college ages, they look up to these kids.
So you get high school kids and they're looking up to guys in their 30s.
Yes, we're talking 15 to 35, with the majority of it being the 15 to 25 crowd, but the strongest part of the component, the one that is organizing it and promoting it, are the older kids, the kids who have established themselves by a large amount of tags.
All right, so we got a call, but before we take the call, the quickest way to establish yourself is mark up as much stuff as you can. And the more people see your stuff, the greater your reputation grows?
In simple terms, if you parallel it to the mafia, if it's who you're tagging with, where you're tagging, how many times you're doing it, what it looks like, the most craziest place you can think of. That's why when you drive down the highway, you see the overpasses, and you're like, how'd the kid get up there and do that?
Right.
He gets a certain amount of credit.
He gets points for
it. It's got to look good.
What happens if your graffiti's awful? If you do like an X?
They refer to you as a toy.
Okay, I'd probably be a toy. Hold on, let's call, go ahead, what's your name?
Yes, this is Dale from Dorchester.
I'm sorry, the first name again?
Dale from Dorchester.
Dale from Dorchester. Dale, what's your, thank you for calling, Call the Cops, what's your question?
Well, yes, sir. I have more of a comment than a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just want to say that I think a lot of people tend to get confused between, when it comes to graffiti, they tend to get confused between freedom of speech and vandalism.
Yep.
And it's not about free speech. You know, when you go out and, you know, deface somebody's property, that is a crime. It's not about freedom of speech. It's not about the Constitution. You know, because I'm an artist and I can appreciate, you know, free speech, but certainly if you're going to go out and deface someone's property, that's vandalism. And I think there should be a distinguished difference between the two. And thank you guys so much for all your hard work. I want to give a shout out to the Boston Police Department.
We don't hear that often, but we do. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Dale.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Great call.
But and that's the point. You know, thanks again. But that's the point you were speaking to. Not a graffiti artist, you're a graffiti vandal. Big distinction.
Correct. I mean, the caller hit it right on the head. You know, this isn't personal.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't the police department going out trying to infringe on anyone's, you know, civil rights or rights.
We're gonna have the call. You know what, man?
Yeah.
Let's take the other call.